What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. Little bonus Thursday night insomnia Discord mailbag podcast. Also going to talk a little bit about the current roster and Mason Taylor. A little 10, 12 minutes because it's just, you do 17 pods in the first 3 days of the week. You feel like you got to do one here in the back half of the week. Quick PSAs at the top. Our best ball drafts are firing right now at Underdog, so make sure you take advantage of our promo code Badlands for a deposit match. Promo code Badlands, go use it right now. Live show tickets and merch, badlandstoj.com. Check that out. We are now comfortably over 100. You can see how out of ease I feel now about my concerns, which were silly as people are starting to file in now that football is starting up. And that is basically it from now. A lot more announcements coming in the coming weeks of some different campaigns, additions to the team, new shows. We're busy. Expandlands is a real thing. So if you're watching this away from the Patreon, subscribe to the Patreon so you get all the content and you can join the Discord, which is what generates most of this content. I'll lead with a question from our king of the Discord, Andy, that Jake and Paul did a great job of answering, but I also want to get to riff on. Greatest single game performance by a player on each side of the ball that you've seen. Also, greatest single game performance by the offensive and defensive unit you've seen. So, also do worse for all the above. I don't know if I can do all of them. I'll do as many as I can. Single game offensive performance. The first two that come to mind for me are Keyshawn's performance against the Jaguars in 98. Playoff game, high stakes, receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, fumble recovery, interception. Totally dominated that game on, maybe the Jets' most important win outside of their 2010 playoff win over the Pats since they won the Super Bowl. Brandon Marshall against the Giants in 2015 always sticks out to me. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he took over that game down the stretch and effectively won it for them. And it was against the Giants, so that sticks in the memory as being particularly fun. I'm not going to say things like Isaiah Crowell running for 260 yards. Like, it's got to be a guy with at Marshall or Keyshawn status. Curtis Martin had a couple exceptional games. The snow game, his opener against the Bengals in 2004 was particularly fun. I can't think of anything that recent that I really want to try to squeeze in. Brees and Garrett have had some nice ones, but the one that comes to mind for me first on offense is Keyshawn Johnson. And for some reason, that Marshall game against the Giants always sticks with me. And again, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I may be forgetting a couple prominent one. Favre had the 6 touchdown game in 2008, but I don't know. The Cardinals team kind of stunk, but statistically, obviously, incredibly impressive. Defense, what Revis did to Reggie Wayne in that playoff game in 2010, Reggie Wayne was so good. And I think he held him to 1 catch for 1 yard. He had another one right around that against shutting down Ocho Cinco, slowing down Vincent Jackson. But the one against Reggie Wayne always really stuck out to me, how well Revis played in that game, a game that the Jets really easily could have lost on the road wild card weekend. And Revis just totally took Wayne out of the game and allowed the Jets to effectively win a low-scoring game. Shaun Ellis was dominant the next week against the Patriots. He had a couple huge plays in that one. I'm thinking back to the glory days here because those are the ones that come top of mind without a doubt. Those are the two that click for me on individual defensive performance. You go a little further back. There were a couple, really nice, John Abraham, Jonathan Vilma type games, but it's got to be Revis. It always goes back to Revis if you're talking about single game best defensive performance. You could say the game against Dez too, but I like going with the playoffs for the high stakes. In terms of a unit, defense, it's got to be probably the Jets in 2010 against Brady on the road. Again, that game is going to check a lot of boxes for it. They were just awesome in that game. Rex, at the peak of his powers, how he cooked up that game plan. And he did something similar in 2009 week 2 against the Pats and something similar in 2010 week 2 against the Pats. He just always brought his A game, or at least once a year he would bring his A game. And that's where you see those defenses at their absolute best. there were some moments in 2022 where Salah had that defense kind of firing on certain cylinders, and you're like, wow, like we're not quite to Rex level, but there's some flashes. What they did in that Packers game where they beat up on Rodgers a little bit and one going away. But you got to go back to to the playoff games and the Rex era in particular. That defense was just dominant. Offense, I go more back to I think Pennington, 41-0 Colts, just absolute running them out of the building. That was a cap to a year where there were times he was just absolutely perfect. The Favre game against the Cardinals, I think they scored 56 points or something in that game. I know there was the famous one in the 80s with Ken O'Brien and Wesley Walker and Al Toon against the Dolphins. I didn't get to watch that one, so I can't technically count it. In 98, they had a couple fun ones when Testaverde was really rolling. Those are all ones that come to mind for me. Overall, 2015, certainly they had a couple games where they ran up the points down the stretch when they got hot on that 5-game winning streak. But I'm going with 41-0 with Pennington. You could also say the fourth quarter of the Monday Night Miracle, where they just racked up all the touchdowns, obviously, with Coles and Jermaine Wiggins had a touchdown. Jumbo Elliott had a touchdown. I'm still going 41-0. That's what comes to mind for me. Worst, Zach Wilson's home debut against the Patriots, just being like, oh, man, it might be over already in week 2. Just like that. They had like 4 interceptions in the first half. Just mortifying for a rookie QB's home opener of all teams, of course, against New England. Really try to erase that one from the old memory. Defense, this is as a unit. This one always sticks with me. It was Salah's first year when they played the Eagles. I think the Eagles ran the ball like 60 times in a row, and they were just pounding the Jets up and down the field. It's not great. Not a fun one to watch as a Jets fan. There was a couple moments last year where their defense looked like that as well, but that one always stuck out in that first year for Salah. And then worst, individual defensive performance. It's a tougher one. It's a tougher one to single out on defense. It's got to be a cornerback who is consistently getting roasted. It goes back to like some of we had guys like Pierre Desir running around, or the rotating cast of cornerbacks they had in 2013, I think it was, or 2014 when Idzik didn't address the position. There's not one that, really sticks in my mind. Offensively as an entire unit, there's just so many from the Zach era where the Jets were just hopeless. Even that Giants game that they won, I know the conditions were bad, but my God, it was just like hard to watch some of those games. Depressing. Anyway, other topics. Good question though, Andy. I think Mason Taylor is about to sign his contract. All the second rounders seem to be ripping through, and the Jets rookies are reporting in 2 days or like a day by the time this drops. So I have to imagine the Jets' goal is to minimize any time he misses. He's likely to be their starting tight end. That's sort of the last domino in terms of their in-house business that they need to take care of. So I really expect that to be done by the 19th. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. And I fully expect Mason Taylor to start week 1. I think he's going to be like 40 catches, 450 yards, 4 touchdowns as a rookie, and probably about third in target share after Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I'd probably put Reynolds fourth. After that, a little bit more of a grab bag, whether it ends up being Lazard, Braylon Allen, probably not Ruckert or Stone Smart, maybe Arian Smith if he surprises, maybe Tyler Johnson if he surprises. The top 4 I feel solid about, though. Garrett, Breece, Mason Taylor, and then probably Josh Reynolds, unless the Jets are going to make a move. So imperative to get Taylor in camp. Ruckert, my hope is with a new coaching staff and a new system, he could be like a competent number 2 tight end. That's always what the goal has been for him, like a good blocking backup tight end. And then you use Stone Smart situationally as a glorified receiver in a big slot, and you use him in the red zone, and that's your tight end room for this year. So that's one to look out for. And then, veterans, everyone will be there by June 22nd with no distractions of Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Hopefully we get that joint presser before then. Still very happy that it's done for our guys, both right there. on the outside of our Badlands team. I tweeted this today, like after Mason Taylor, your next order of business would be opportunistic on the defensive line and the edge group, trying to Clemens and Cowart proof your unit. Gotta be patient for that though, like cuts, trade candidates, waiver wire. I think they will do something there. I'd like them to do something at receiver, but I'm not really expecting it. I think they're going to work with what I just said, for better or worse. They're going to say, we're going to throw the ball out to our running backs. We're going to throw the ball out to Garrett Wilson. We're going to throw the ball out to our tight ends. It's going to be Garrett. It's going to be Reynolds. We have Tyler Johnson and Lazard as our veteran backups. And if Johnson's really good in camp, maybe we try to flip Lazard for a 7th rounder. We have Arian Smith as our rookie situational deep threat. And we have Gibson and Corley battling it out, with Brandon Smith or whatever for the final roster spot. I'm sure it'd be awesome to trade for Alex Pierce or Romeo Dobbs or Juwan Jennings or any of the fun ones we discussed. I just don't actually think it's going to happen. Maybe they sign a scrap heap veteran. I don't really see Cooper or Keenan Allen happening. I could be wrong, but I think the Jets are just going to roll as is with their pass catchers. So a very full week at Badlands. We'll have some more content hit throughout the weekend as we always do. Remember to hit that underdog code with promo code Badlands. And thank you everyone for listening. We'll talk to you soon.